Kathleen Parker is taking plenty of heat these days. She's a nationally syndicated columnist, conservative side of the spectrum, who watched Sarah Palin's interviews with Katie Couric and Charlie Gibson and called for Palin to spare herself further embarrassment by quitting the race. I spoke to her earlier here in the studio. Kathleen Parker, welcome.
Thank you, Howard. Nice to be here.
Here's what you wrote this week. Allow me to introduce myself. I am a traitor and an idiot. Also, my mother should have aborted me and left me in a dumpster, but since she didn't, I should off myself. Now, this is all because some readers didn't like what you had to say about Sarah Palin.
Some people were very upset. Approximately 11,000 so far and counting. Yeah, I wrote about Sarah Palin stepping down from the ticket. I felt after her third interview, I didn't think any of her interviews were very good, but the third was catastrophic, that she ought to leave the ticket and let McCain try to put somebody else in place who could do a better job and help him with maybe the economy.
And for those who missed the column, you said, this is after one of her encounters with Katie Couric, if Palin were a man, we'd all be guffawing, and if BS were currency, Palin could bail out Wall Street herself. So is there a bit of a double standard where she gets more of a pass for answers where she just couldn't, come up with an answer?
I think so, yeah. I think we're less likely to pick on women generally. On the Republicans...
We hear so much about the sexist media, though.
May I say on the Republican side, we're perfectly happy to pick on Democratic women. But I do think we gave her a pass up front. And when I say we, I'm just talking about, people associated with the more conservative side of the aisle. And, I mean, really and truly, imagine if a man, a male candidate, were just sort of saying, betcha, and winking, and all of these histrionics that only a woman could do, and yet it's a very unserious way to behave if you're running for Vice President of the United States. Let
me play for you one soundbite from Governor Palin's interview with Katie Couric, and this was, everybody's now seen this probably 100 times, when she was asked about the Supreme Court.
What other Supreme Court decisions do you disagree with?
Well, let's see. There's... Of course, in the great history of America, there have been rulings that there's never going to be absolute consensus by every American.
And of course, she couldn't name a single example. Was that part of what made you feel that this woman is not ready for prime time?
Not that particular question, because I think a lot of people would have a hard time coming up with, let's see, Supreme Court decisions I disagree with. That's a pretty tough question. But a much more simple question she was unable to answer, such as, what do you read? What newspapers do you read? How hard is that? You just say, well, I read all the big papers, the New York Times, Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. Like everybody in the world, I go to Drudge and check the headlines, and I read the Weekly Standard and the National Review. Why not just throw a few out there? But it seemed to me, I think what happened was she sort of conveyed that, well, maybe she doesn't read. Maybe she doesn't read anything at all. And it was just such a simple question.
What about the reaction to all these emails, all the vitriol directed at you? I mean, that has got to be somewhat depressing. Are you expected, because you are on the conservative side of the spectrum, to defend any nominee the Republican Party throws out there?
Apparently so. I think the reaction to me specifically in this case was, there are a number of factors, I think. One was that they very much do not want Obama to win, and so any opinion that seems to give ammunition to the other side is going to cause trouble. I think another factor is that these people have so over-identified with Sarah Palin as one of us, saying that we're all ordinary Americans, she's like us, and boy, she played that up in a big way Thursday, in the debate Thursday. She really played her populist card. But I think they felt insulted personally, so I think that accounts for the viciousness.
Were you not only wandering off the reservation as a conservative, but also as a woman who perhaps some saw as betraying or walking away from this woman, the first Republican woman on a Republican presidential ticket?
A little bit. It's sort of a funny thing for the right to be offended by objecting to the sisterhood, by leaving the sisterhood. But I think most of the comments were more along the lines of that I was jealous, that clearly I couldn't stand for a pretty woman like Sarah Palin to be rising to the vice presidency that probably I should be. That actually hadn't entered my mind, but...
You have avoided taking this personally, but it's got to be a little frustrating to be beaten up like that for basically doing your job. You're paid to have opinions. You're paid to write a column.
Well, of course I am, and I'm not paid by the GOP. I mean, I'm not employed by them, and I have to say what I believe. I have to, there's an issue of credibility as well for me. So it was impossible for me to continue cheerleading for Sarah Palin, given the evidence we had at the time.
I've got about half a minute. Did Sarah Palin's performance at the debate, which got fairly positive reviews from the mainstream media, cause you to revise your view at all about whether she should be the VP nominee?
Sarah Palin, I think, redeemed herself. I don't think she helped McCain, and I think the question of whether she is qualified to be president has not been answered in a different way. How's that?
In a different way?
Yeah, I don't think anyone who watched her and who then listens to her answers would say, yes, this woman is ready to be president of the United States should circumstances warrant.
Kathleen Parker still speaking her mind. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for joining us.